what do you do with it besides catalog it?
Yeah.
What is the ultimate goal, right?
Yeah.
So I guess what there might be a confusion is tons of respect for MUFON. In fact, like I've said before, I'm on their front page, and they're on my site, front page.
Yep.
I give them support. I give them props. I guess where we part ways is that there's more of a sayer and doer, and the MUFON, what they do is more of an investigative, and that's where they end. And I think where we want to go is we actually want to try to do something different instead of just going around in circles for the next 50 years. I don't think people want to do that because it's really going to hurt ufology by just basically pressing rewind and pressing play, which is starting to happen on YouTube, where people release these videos and a whole new crop of young people are like, wow, did you see this? And you're like, this is the Santilli crap, man. This is not real.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, really? This is like something from Roswell. And you're like, no, dude, oh, man, this is wild. So it's really weird. And I think that's where me and MUFON sort of parted ways a little bit. But I've got tons of respect for them. Like I said, using Alejandro, well, he was in MUFON. And I just think that very similar to how churches and synagogues said, hey, we got to keep people interested, young people, in what we're doing, right? The younger generation. Well, how are we gonna hip it out a little bit?
Yeah.
So there's like, oh, well, let's get some cooler music in here. Let's do some better activities on the weekends and stuff like that. And that's what they do. I think MUFON needs to do that. They need to reach out to younger people like us, support us, maybe with a little finance or whatnot.
Yeah.
I mean, for instance, don't do a ham radio show.
Yeah, right.
What is it, like 3 people have a ham radio?
Yeah, I know.
Really? Yeah. Okay, so that kind of thing. But yeah, no, in fact, the guys over here at MUFON, they're cool guys, and I asked them if they wanted me to come back, and they said yes. So I guess we're not at odds at all, really.
That's awesome. I mean, I'm not going to speak ill of MUFON either. I'm a member of MUFON. That just this year I signed up for it. They do a lot of fantastic research and investigation. But there was a conference that was supposed to take place in June that I was going to go to, Jesse. It was MUFON LA was putting it on. It was Contact in the Desert. And so they had this, 2-day event with Stan Romanek. I think Paul Hellyer signed on. Alejandro was going to be there and a host of other people. And it was in the desert. You were going to get to camp on this wonderful meditation kind of retreat. There's going to be like guided meditation, drum circles, sky watch at night. Like if they had followed through with that, and they didn't because they got a little bit of cold feet when the tickets didn't sell up front like they had hoped for. If they kind of had stuck through with that, I think you would have saw a whole bunch of young people come out to camp in the desert, in Arizona or wherever it was. I can't remember right now, but if they did more stuff like that, I totally agree with you. We could get more of a younger audience involved.
Well, if they put some more like yourself or someone, for instance, I don't know if they have a Canadian affiliate, but they need to get some people that are under 30 or in their 30s associated with MUFON.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't seem like they have that on their radar. It seems like they have sort of a older council that is very stringent with their rules and regulation. It's kind of like old furniture in your grandma's house, It's like, it's time to get some new furniture. So
yeah.
I think MUFON's got this great reputation, especially in the mainstream. They can get their attention, and they look to them when there's something going on, but at the same time, it would be nice to know what their overall goal is besides just to investigate. I mean, it's great that we want to investigate, but don't we also want to go, yeah, we found out that there's an Area 51 that's the size of Connecticut, but don't we also want to try to do something about the fact that it's ridiculous after 60-plus years probably that we're not allowed to know what the hell's going on there, even though we pay for it, and probably half of it might even be illegal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying.
I'm blown away that this information isn't like common knowledge. I mean, and that's what I think MUFON should also concentrate on too, is instead of focusing all this money that they're getting, instead of putting it all into, their website and selling products and things like that, and putting together this tiny little photocopied booklet that I get once a month. They could put some of that money and have kind of like a Leslie Kean style effort with maybe a younger twist on it to bring it out into the main media more often. I mean, this information it should be blatantly obvious by now. I'm in your train card on this one. I'm riding this freight train with you because I think it's totally preposterous that the world's in the state that it is, and all this technology is just sitting there behind closed doors, and it's got no way to come out because no one really, they either don't know about it or they're so immersed in their apathetic daily lives, they just don't care.
Yeah, well, I think it's a mixture of both. And I don't know how obvious it is because it's not politically correct to think it's obvious. So
right.
Maybe in the back of their minds, maybe they dawn on it once in a blue moon, but I don't really think that they do. I think, like you said, the regular lifestyle that people lead, especially nowadays, is so difficult. It's one of the reasons I left Los Angeles is so I could clear my head and go, stop moving so fast. This has got to stop. We got to do things differently if we want to think differently, and then we can do something different with our actions. And that's what I would love to see MUFON do as well. I don't think they're making a lot of money, so I also think that that's a pretty good indication of probably time for change.
Yeah.
But again, it's not for me to say. If they came to me and wanted me to get more involved with them, if they were interested in getting some younger ambassadors, I would be totally interested. I'm interested in working with a lot of people, and I know ufology has this really, really bad reputation for not getting along, and there's a lot of people that don't.
Yeah.
So, I try not to be like that. At the same time, then I get labeled as this Art Bell type that really just is interested in entertaining people. So it's kind of hard to walk the line and not make enemies along the way. You know?
Right. Yeah, definitely. It's kind of I don't know. It's like a double-edged sword sometimes.
Well, at some point, people you would think would start changing their thought patterns on what it is, what's going on around them, what's really important. The problem is that at the end of the day, when you get too radical for most people, they just turn off. And we know this, which is the same reason why if anyone usually asks me about this topic, it's always the same questions, because you've been in those circles where you're the UFO guy or the guy who knows about that stuff. I try to keep that under wraps pretty much at this point because it's always the same questions from the same type of people who really don't want the answer. So what's the point?
Yeah.
It's something that if you told them, I doubt you're able to really handle this stuff right now or be willing to accept the reality of it. That would just anger most people. You tell an engineer from Yahoo that over lunch, he's going to call you a jerk and walk away, think you're an idiot. But that's usually what it comes down to because most people are not aware that to this day, in 2011, that the people who believe in extraterrestrials visiting this planet are not just farm people and people who are on drugs and things of that nature. They still think that that's what the case is. A lot of people, they don't know that it's nuclear physicists and astronauts and defense contractors and computer scientists and astrophysicists and on and on and on.
Yep.
So when you tell people there's tons of proof, no forum, they have no idea what you're talking about. But then, like you said, it's lunchtime, and then it's time to watch The Simpsons. So you go to Letterman, and by that time, they're passed out.
Yeah. I love your analogies, man. They're great. Right in my backyard, I've talked to Stanton Friedman too, obviously, because he's the next province over from me. I'm on the Atlantic coast, and he's the next one in. And I've had him on the show last year, and of course he is the MUFON provincial director for our area of the world here in Canada.
Okay.
And I was kind of thinking about maybe getting this handbook, this MUFON investigator training handbook. And it's it may be a little hokey to a lot of people, but I've been considering maybe putting my feet into the water here and doing some training with Stan myself. So there's hope for the young world.
We'll do my stamping for you. That's great, too. Isn't that great? Yeah. Stan is, I don't know how people can give that guy heat.
Yeah.
And that's really a testament that there are just some real hater types within ufology. How could you give a guy like Stanton Friedman, who's given his life to the subject, he really is the Energizer Bunny of ufology. This guy is everywhere.
Yeah.
Anytime I go to an event, the guy's there. And he's like older than my dad. He's got more energy than me. And granted, I've been through the ringer, but this guy is awesome. He really is. And he's a genius. You can go on and on about that guy. I don't know how anyone could have a problem with Stan Friedman, but yet you do have people that think he's, one-sided, or he's a crackpot, or doesn't know what he's talking about, or he's old school. I have no idea. He's a very fact-driven guy. Yeah. So, we don't even agree on a lot of stuff. I think there's something to the Lazar case. He is totally 100% that there's nothing to it.
Yeah.
We disagree on Corso. We've talked about that in the past. I talked to Corso's son at great length, and he thinks Corso, even though I got him to finally admit, Stan, I got one thing out of him. I got him to finally admit that Colonel Corso was the highest ranking official to come out and say that he was part of back engineering or working with aircraft from other planets. Yeah. And he said that's true. There isn't another higher rank, because he was sort of belittling his rank a little bit.
Oh, I see.
And I said, well, either way you slice it, it's still probably the highest of rankings, if not the highest. And it probably is the highest. So I got him to admit that, but he still thought that he had fabricated most of what he said. So we disagreed there, too.
Yeah, he's pretty nuts and bolts. If he can't really nail it down, he's probably going to put it in that gray basket that he says he has on the side all the time. I was speaking to him just briefly there. I think we just kind of joined forces on Facebook. I'm going to try and get him on the show, too, because I watched a couple of his lectures, one of them from 2006, Philip Corso Jr., down in Hawaii, for his book, or his manuscript, rather, Dawn of a New Age. You can get it on the Open Mind site if you go on there and submit your email and stuff. He's a fascinating character for sure. But Stan Friedman, he's definitely one of my favorites too. I know he's yours. You talk about him a lot on your program. He's right in my backyard, so who knows? Maybe we'll get together. I met him a couple of years back in 2006 here at a symposium we had here, and you're right. Like, the guy, there's no end to this guy. I don't know where he finds that energy. You're right. He's everywhere.
Look, if you're going to pick like 5 guys to represent ufology, he's got to be right at the top of the list, Yeah. And I'm always quick to say that I'm a vessel and that I'm more of a person that is giving people a platform. Yeah, I talk a pretty big game about wanting change, but Stan's out in the field. You know what I'm saying? MUFON's out in the field. Mm-hmm. So I'm always happy. I gave their MUFON director of Oregon 2 hours of my show. Keep in mind, that's my show. I could do anything I want with that. I have no problem giving MUFON time when they have something to say.
Yeah, for sure.
Same thing with Stan. When I heard about this Annie Jacobson book, I ran to Stan. Yeah. If there's anything controversial going on, usually I run to Stan first. Even at Fukusama, I wanted to talk to Stan, because I just look at him as the go-to guy. And so did Larry King. So why wouldn't I trust some very talented journalists, right?
Yeah,
always
absolutely.
Look to Stan. Unfortunately, with Larry King, you didn't get as much time to get your point across. So a lot of it got pretty convoluted, a lot of those programs that were going on for a while with, you'd have Stan on and Shostak.
Yeah,
and
Bill Nye.
And, Michio. And then you'd have some dude on, or another one of my favorites, which is James Fox.
Yeah.
And then, sure enough, they get 30 seconds to spew something, and they bring on Colonel Halt and toot him around, and then these guys would say, there's nothing to it, and that'd be the end of the program.
Yeah, I don't get it, man. What was Stan's reaction to the Annie Jacobson Area 51 book, when about the Roswell aliens being mutilated children, part of a German flying saucer / Russian program to desensitize Americans?
Yeah, it's almost so ridiculous sounding that it's hard to paraphrase. So I made him do it. Again, I heard about it. I heard about her claims.
Yeah.
Right to Stan. Sure enough, Annie had talked to Stan.